Where did you get your religion from? The struggle between government power and religion is constantly playing out, and this dynamic is extremely important to recognize because this is what decides what you inherited from previous generations as your religion. You have been conditioned not to question what you inherited and accept it as perfect, but fact remains, if you look throughout history, governments have censored preachers and scholars, and that is happening to this very day. Of course, it's very hard for us to accept what we have been question what we have been conditioned to accept. So I'm not going to use a historical example to drive this point home, but I'll use a contemporary one. In Saudi Arabia, not that long ago, a shaikh who was a mufti of the Grand Mosque in Mecca, he was arrested and imprisoned for 8 years. He was recently released. His name was Sheikh Slaeh al-Talib, right? Why was he arrested? Well, he was arrested because he gave a sermon criticizing the Saudi Entertainment Authority, basically. An excerpt from his speech went around online, and he basically said, "O Muslims, what has changed that now we see crowds in places of entertainment and music? O Muslims, what has happened to you that we see women and girls dancing with young men side by side in a scene that, by God, makes the body shudder and the heart tremble? O Muslims, what has happened to you that groups of you flock to the mosques, not to pray in them, but to climb up to watch a sinner singing and foolish men and women dancing?" So he said the truth. Now, whether you agree with this or not is irrelevant, but he did not say anything terrible to have 7 years of his life taken away. He went to prison for 7 years. Moreover, not only did he go to prison for 7 years, but this guy is not going to be an imam anymore. He's not going to have a platform unless he builds one himself, which of course the Saudi government is going to try to suppress. But he's not going to have a religious platform handed to him like it is to imams generally. And what else happened? Well, the people who are not going to say the same thing that he said are going to be placed in those positions. They will have the platform handed to them by the government. And this has happened historically. It always happens. And this is why in the United States of America, those people that found it, despite their shortcomings otherwise, they figured out that you should always separate government power and religious power. Religion has the right to say whatever they want, whenever they want, because they have the right to criticize the government. But this is an exception rather than a rule historically. That being said, now you can start to understand why the empires like the Umayyad Empire and Abbasid Empire or the Byzantine Empire after conversion to Christianity would propagate certain ideas that they agreed with and how they would suppress them. You look at historically, anybody that opposed them were suppressed. Anybody that opposed their religious ideas, which were usually frequently just political ideas that had a veneer of religiosity painted on them, whoever opposed them was no longer an imam, no longer a scholar, imprisoned, and even executed. And this is why we need to understand this dynamic. Because what you inherited, depending on where you were born, may not necessarily be the truth. And this is why you have to go back to the primary source. Primary source is everything. The Quran ultimately decides who is telling the truth and who is telling the lies. What Allah loves and what God hates. What God wants you to do and what God wants you to stay away from. And no king can change that. In your own soul, no king can change that. I hope I have explained this dynamic, and now you understand that the information you have inherited has been polluted several times upstream. The only thing you have that's pure is your own heart and the Quran. Peace be with you.